You walk into a room and immediately know something is off. Nobody said anything. Nothing looks different. But the atmosphere shifted somewhere between the door and where you're standing, and you felt it before you could name it. And now you're quietly adjusting, reading faces, tracking the conversation underneath the conversation, managing the mood of the room without anyone asking you to. And if someone asks you later how you knew, you won't be able to explain it. You'll just say you could tell. Most people in your life have at some point told you that you're too sensitive, that you take things too personally, that you feel things too much. And you've spent a lot of time wondering if that's true, if there is something slightly broken in the way you're wired, if everyone else moves through the world more easily because they're better at this, or if you just never learned to be. Here's what nobody told you. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're built differently, and there is 40 years of research that explains exactly why. Think back to when you were young. You probably cried more easily than other kids. Not because you were weak, you cried because things landed harder. A sad film, a harsh word from a teacher, a fight between your parents that everyone else seemed to shake off in an hour. You were still carrying it 3 days later. You were the child who noticed when someone at the dinner table was quietly unhappy, the one who couldn't sleep if something felt unresolved, the one who got overwhelmed in loud, crowded places and needed to disappear somewhere quiet afterward. And the adults in your life didn't always know what to do with that. Some of them tried to help by telling you to toughen up. Some just looked confused. And somewhere along the way you learned that the depth of what you feel is something to manage, something to hide, something that makes other people uncomfortable if you show too much of it. You learn to apologize for how you're wired, and you've been doing it ever since. In 1991, psychologist Elaine Aron was studying a trait she noticed kept appearing in a subset of her research subjects. These people processed information more deeply than others. They were more easily overwhelmed by intense stimuli. They were highly empathic, and they showed up in roughly the same proportion, about 15 to 20% of the population, across almost every culture studied. She called it sensory processing sensitivity. You probably know it as being a highly sensitive person, or HSP. And here is the first thing you need to understand about it. It is not a disorder. It is not a diagnosis. It is a trait, a normal, stable variation in how the nervous system processes the world. The same way some people have better peripheral vision or a sharper sense of smell. Your nervous system processes incoming information more thoroughly, more deeply, more completely. The biology behind it is real. Brain imaging studies show that highly sensitive people have greater activation in the areas of the brain associated with empathy, awareness, and processing complex information. Specifically the insula and mirror neuron system, the parts of the brain that allow you to feel what other people are feeling, almost as if it's happening to you. This is why you can walk into a room and know something is off. You are not imagining it. You are picking up on micro-expressions, subtle shifts in tone, tiny changes in body language that most people's brains filter out entirely. Your nervous system doesn't filter them out. It processes all of it, every signal, all at once. That is extraordinary capability. It is also, if you've never had it explained, exhausting. And that explains so much about how you move through the world. Take the overwhelm. You don't get overwhelmed because you're weak. You get overwhelmed because your system is doing more work than most people's systems do. A busy restaurant isn't just loud to you, it's dozens of simultaneous conversations, the smell of the kitchen, the emotional temperature of the table next to you, the lighting that's slightly too bright, the music that's slightly too fast. All of it arriving at full volume, all at once, none of it filtered. Your system is not broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do, just at a much higher resolution than the average. Then there's your relationship with other people's emotions. Highly sensitive people don't just notice how others are feeling, they absorb it. You walk into a room where someone is sad and you leave feeling sad. You spend an afternoon with someone who is anxious, and you spend the evening trying to figure out why you feel unsettled. You take on the emotional weight of the people around you without meaning to, and without always being able to tell the difference between what is yours and what belongs to someone else. Researchers call this emotional contagion, the tendency to catch the feelings of others the way you catch a cold. And in HSPs, this system runs at a much higher sensitivity than in the general population, which means your empathy is genuinely extraordinary, and your emotional exhaustion is genuinely real. There is also something worth understanding about how HSPs experience beauty, because this gets left out of the conversation, and it matters. The same sensitivity that makes you cry at sad news also makes you genuinely stopped in your tracks by a piece of music, by a line in a book that feels like it was written specifically for you, by a view or a particular quality of evening light, or the feeling of a really good conversation. You experience beauty at a depth that most people don't have access to. This is not a side effect. It is part of the same trait. The depth goes in both directions. Researcher Elaine Aron noted that highly sensitive people tend to be among the most creative, intuitive, and emotionally intelligent people in any group. They make extraordinary therapists, artists, teachers, and leaders in environments that suit them. Not because sensitivity is a talent in itself, but because deep processing produces depth of understanding. And depth of understanding in the right context is irreplaceable. Now here's the part that would be dishonest to leave out, because there is a shadow side to this, and naming it matters. The same depth of processing that makes HSPs so perceptive can also make them prone to overthinking in ways that are genuinely costly. When your system processes everything deeply, it also processes the things that didn't need that much processing. The offhand comment from a colleague, the text that took 3 hours to reply, the expression on someone's face for half a second. You run all of it through the full system. You generate meaning from things that may not have had much meaning to begin with. And the overwhelm is real. High sensitivity is correlated with higher rates of anxiety and depression, not because sensitive people are weaker, but because a nervous system set to high resolution in a loud, harsh, fast-moving world will struggle more than one that can filter some of it out. The world was not designed for people who feel everything deeply. It was designed for people who can move through it at a normal pace and a normal volume. This means HSPs carry a particular kind of fatigue that is very difficult to explain to people who don't share the trait. It's not laziness. It's not weakness. It's the exhaustion of a system that has been running at full capacity all day, doing work that most people's systems simply don't do. But here is what gets missed in every conversation about sensitivity. 15 to 20% of the population is highly sensitive. That is not a small number. That is 1 in 5 people. And across almost every studied species, birds, fish, primates, the same proportion shows up, which tells researchers something important. This trait survived. In evolutionary terms, it was kept. Because a group that contains people who process the environment at high resolution, who notice what others miss, who feel consequences deeply and plan accordingly, that group does better than one without them. You were not a mistake. You were not a design flaw. You were, in the context of the species, exactly what a certain percentage of people are supposed to be. The problem is not the trait. The problem is the mismatch between the trait and an environment that wasn't built for it. A world that rewards speed over depth, volume over precision, certainty over nuance. In that world, high sensitivity can feel like a disadvantage every single day. But remove the mismatch. Give an HSP an environment that suits them, work that uses their depth, relationships where their empathy is valued rather than drained. And what remains is one of the most remarkable nervous systems a person can have. The depth is not your burden. The depth is your design. Being told you feel too much is like being told your eyes are too good, that you see too clearly, that the detail is excessive, that everyone else manages fine with less resolution, so why can't you? The answer is, because you can't turn down what you were built to take in. You feel music in a way that makes some people cry just watching your face. You hold someone's pain so completely that they feel less alone inside it. You notice the thing that nobody else noticed, and you say it, and the room shifts. You read a paragraph and feel like someone finally said the thing you've been trying to say for years. That is not a disorder. That is not something to fix. That is you, at full capacity, doing exactly what you were designed to do. The world will keep telling you that you're too much, that you take things too hard, feel things too long, care too deeply about things that don't warrant it. But the world has also always needed exactly the kind of person you are, the one who notices, the one who stays, the one who feels it fully and shows up anyway. You're not too sensitive. You're sensitive enough to matter. If this found you, if you recognize something in here, please subscribe.